Hello, today we are going to talk about what may possibly be your first Linux computer. But before we get to that, let's talk about operating systems. An operating system is the software that supports a computer's basic functions such as scheduling tasks, executing applications, and controlling peripherals. It is what makes a computer run and allows a user to interact with a device. Now, the three most popular operating systems are Windows, Mac, and Linux. And as you can tell from the title of this video, we are going to be talking about Linux. Now, what is Linux? The term Linux is used to describe a large variety of operating systems using the Linux kernel at the heart of the operating system. A kernel is the programming that allows the software to communicate with the hardware at the most basic level and allows everything to run smoothly. The operating system, therefore, should really be called a Linux-based operating system, and each unique one is called a distribution or distro for short. Now, why would you want to choose Linux? The number one reason to choose Linux is because it is free. And when I say free, I mean that in two ways. First, the Linux kernel is an open source software, which allows anyone like you and me to take that software, download it, use it, modify it, and share it with the world. In contrast, other operating systems are known as proprietary. This makes the operating system the property of a company such as Windows and Apple and is not to be modified or shared and must be paid for to use. Linux is also free in the monetary sense. A lot, if not most, distributions can be acquired without a purchase. I know some of you may have seen or heard of Linux before and may have been put off, probably because you've seen it being used with the command line interface. The command line interface is a way to give your computer inputs using only typed commands instead of a graphical user interface where the user clicks images to execute commands. And although the command line interface is widely used for its efficiency, you can also go the life of your computer without ever having to use it. There are a ton of distros out there with graphical user interfaces for every use you'll ever need. Now let's talk about a computer that uses a Linux-based operating system, the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi was created by the Raspberry Pi Foundation, whose goal is to advance the education of adults and kids in the fields of computer and computer science. The Raspberry Pi is a low-cost, credit card-sized computer that plugs into a computer monitor or TV and uses a standard keyboard and mouse and is a capable little device that enables people of all ages to explore computing, to learn how to program, or just to do everything you'd expect a desktop computer to do, from browsing the internet and playing high definition video to making spreadsheets, word processing, and playing games. The version of Raspberry Pi I have is a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B+. This device is smaller than a deck of cards, but is quite powerful for its size, and at just $35, it will probably be the cheapest computer you ever buy. Yet for this small price, you'll get a lot of use out of it. Now, to get this little device up and running, you'll need a few things. The hardware requirements for this are the Raspberry Pi itself, a micro USB power supply, an HDMI cable, a keyboard and a mouse, and a micro SD card. And the case is optional, but highly recommended to protect your computer from dust buildup, drop spills, and it just looks a bit nicer. Now let's talk about the ports on this computer. We have an Ethernet port, multiple USB ports. We have the HDMI port, the micro USB port, and then underneath we also have the micro SD card slot. So to get this computer up and running, you'll take the micro SD card, place that in the bottom. You'll take your keyboard and mouse, and in my case, we'll be using a wireless keyboard and mouse, so a single dongle will work. We'll place that in there. We'll take the power supply cable, connect that there. We'll take an HDMI cable there, and the other end connect to a computer or monitor that accepts an HDMI cable. And then you'll take your power supply cable, put it into the box, and connect it to the wall. Now, a Raspberry Pi does not have an on or off switch, so the moment you connect it to the wall, it'll be up and running.